Alright, so what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about things you should know before buying an S6 or an S7 with a 4.0T. So a common misconception about these cars is that they're extremely unreliable, which, yes, but there's a big but. So this platform mechanically is built pretty good. It's got good internals, good fueling system. There's just a few things that you're most likely going to have to fix when you're looking to buy one of these cars. So today I'm going to tell you all the things you should expect when shopping for an S6 or an S7. So one of the most common issues on this platform is the dreadful PCV valve, or also known as the oil separator. So when your PCV fails, it's pretty easy to notice. It gives off this really loud whistling noise. The common symptoms are misfires and uneven idle, kind of a jittery idle. The part itself is pretty cheap. I think it's about 400 bucks for the OEM updated one. However, it sits in probably the worst place possible. It sits under the turbos, which means a lot of stuff has to get taken out, especially if you're doing the work yourself. It's going to take you a long time. And if not, you're going to pay a pretty penny in labor. I would say try and get on this as soon as you can, before even you start having any of these symptoms, because it's better to catch it early than too late. Alright, so next we're going to talk about the drive shaft carrier bearing. I'm going to put a picture up on the screen of what that looks like. It's a little bracket that holds your drive shaft and supports your drive shaft in the middle. That rubber eventually starts to give out and you get a lot of play in your drive shaft. Coming to a stop becomes very jerky and kind of lunges. The car feels like it's lunging a lot. And when going from a stop as well, you'll kind of feel it bouncing, the drive shaft bouncing around. It's a pretty easy fix. Get a JXB ECS updated carrier bearing. What you have to do is just cut the old one out, clamp the new one over. It is a different design than the OEM one because the OEM one you cannot replace without completely replacing the drive shaft. This makes the drivetrain a lot stiffer, a lot more put in place. It's a pretty cheap fix as well. It's something you could definitely do at home if you have a jack stand and some basic tools. The third thing I want to talk about is the water pump / thermostat situation. Me personally, I'm at 104,000 miles and I've not had any issues, but I plan on getting on it pretty soon just to catch it early, because once again, it's better to catch these things early than it be too late. I know that there's some people, it's kind of a hit or miss if your water pump / thermostat gives out. Once again, I've not had an issue on it, but it's definitely something you should address. So those are the most common issues on this platform. If there's something that I've missed, definitely let me know down in the comments. Now let's move on to the performance. All right, now talking about the stuff that you want to hear. The performance of this platform. The S6s and S7s come with a 4-liter twin turbocharged V8 paired with a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, pushing out a whopping 450 horsepower from factory. The tuning potential on these cars is pretty much endless. There's builds who have gone as far as 1300 wheel horsepower on a single turbo setup. I'm currently running a stage 1 on 93 for the winter, making about 550 horsepower, nothing crazy. On ethanol, I can make up to 650, but as soon as you upgrade the turbos on these cars, they become absolute monsters. Listen to this thing growl. Now, going into this, I hope that you don't expect this thing to handle like a formula car. At the end of the day, these are pretty big cars. It is a boat, but for its size, it gets down. It's nothing terrible. With the factory air ride, this thing does handle like an absolute yacht. Let's get a little acceleration test right here. Very cold out, all seasons. Not going to be anything crazy. So as you can tell, this thing gets down pretty good. Because of the Quattro system, these things launch like an absolute rocket ship. However, when you do go to launch these cars, you do have to be very careful of braking axles. It's a very common issue for these cars to break axles from launch, and nobody wants to replace axles. Now let's look at it from a daily driver point of view. As long as you don't do anything super rowdy to the exhaust, these things are pretty quiet from factory. Personally, that's not for me. I like to hear every cylinder that I have in the car. I paid for all 8 cylinders, so I want to hear all 8 cylinders. But because of the factory air ride that these vehicles come with, you get a real nice smooth ride. Now, strictly speaking, for the factory tune on these cars, they're not terrible on gas either. These 4 liters come with something called cylinder on demand, or cylinder deactivation. So what that basically does is the motor switches firing order and skips a cylinder every order of fire. That'll only activate at highway speeds when under very light throttle. Other than that, these cars have plenty of room. I can comfortably fit 2 people in the back. The S7s do come with, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it, but they do not come with a middle seat. They come with a little tray. But I know that the S6s do come with a middle seat. So that just comes down to preference. I just prefer the S7 sportier look. We have a nice red leather diamond stitched interior paired with an Alcantara headliner and carbon fiber on the interior. Super comfortable car, probably the most comfortable sports seats I've ever sat in. So overall, as someone that daily drives this car every single day, I think it's an absolute beast of a daily driver. It can do most things that you would need a daily to do. Once again, Audi's Quattro all-wheel drive system is probably the best all-wheel drive system in the game. Whether it's snowing or raining, you'll get good traction, good grip, as long as you pair it with the correct tire. Now moving on to the cost of maintenance. The cost of maintenance on these cars is very high. Parts aren't cheap, but most of all, what gets you is the labor. What Audi did is they grabbed this engine and absolutely shoved it and crammed it into this engine bay, which is very annoying for us guys that work on our own car, because it makes it very difficult for us to work on it at home. Of course, if you have a lift and access to these kinds of tools, that won't be a problem. But other than that, your regular oil changes, oil filters, nothing crazy. Just make sure you keep up with maintenance, try and keep your engine as healthy as you can, keep up with changing transmission fluid, differential fluid, all that good stuff. This car will last you a very long time if you take good care of it. Now the big question, is it worth buying an S6 or an S7? In my opinion, yes. Now I don't mean to be biased or anything. I'm sure there's other options that you could go for that might even be better than this platform, but I think this is one of the best bang for your buck platforms, especially if you're aiming to go for performance. As a daily driver, I think there are better options. I would go with just an A6 or an A7 unless you've got some dough laying on the side to pay for all the maintenance, because you will catch yourself throwing money at this car a lot. Now what do I plan on doing to the S7? We do have some ARM Motorsports catless downpipes sitting in my room right now. I'm currently in the process of moving house, so those will be getting put on pretty soon. So expect a video on that. And maybe sometime in the spring, we might even look into some bigger turbos. But you guys are gonna have to wait for that. That's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this video helped you if you're looking into buying an S6 or an S7. Make sure to subscribe and smash that like button if you haven't already. It would really help me out a lot. I would really appreciate it. And again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.